Alright, so today we are going to take a closer look at the SK playoffs and the latest KT vs T1 match, or famously the Telecom War, where we had a really intense Game 5 with a strong early performance by KT getting up to a 5k gold lead, but for some reason not quite managing to close out the game. So in this video we are going to figure out why they were not able to do that, looking at the most important moments in the game and focusing on team comp identity, where we can really see KT not being capable of playing their pro comp to its fullest potential. We will compare that to Geng, who played a somewhat similar comp, and how they approached objectives in teamfights in comparison. Of course, this was a very wide game, and even after these points there were still a lot of possibilities for KT to win the match, but I think these two are the crucial ones when looking at what to improve on as a team. They are now in the losers bracket of the playoffs, so there's still time to improve and make a comeback to secure a spot in the finals. So let's get straight into it. Okay, so let's start around here. And first of all, let's take a quick look at the team comp. We can see it's clearly a kind of poke team comp by KT with the Varus, with the Jace. And then also we have like Talia, who kind of is a bit of additional poke and a lot of control and like good front to back and disengage with the Xin Zhao and the Talia together, I would say. So this is really the core of our team comp and what we should look at when we think about how do we want to play out fights. And with this kind of team comp we always have the core principle: we want to be first on objectives and we want to really solidify our position, so we don't get really dragged into like a quick engage or like a flank or things like that, like a trap, something like that. So we really want to avoid these kind of situations and we always want to be in control. So that's why also these kind of team comps want to be at. So KT in a really good position here. Let's move back a little bit and we can see they kind of they think about that. They move around in the bot side jungle, they gain control, they gain vision, and even they can even get in the pick. It's a bit of a bonus, I would say. Even I think it's not the main objective, but yeah, they do what they have to do so far. So far so good. And Geng is spawning at 110, which is it's still a fine timer to reset on. So let's look at what happens a bit. So we get a pick here, really nice hook by Lihans. And now we are pushing this wave. I think already a bit off tempo now, because it's not really necessary to push this wave in when we think about how much time we waste, because we are still not recalled, still not recalled. Now we are starting to recall. So T1 has a lot of time and a really big tempo advantage, which leads to a really strong call by T1, which is the try to rush Nashor. So now, just now, KT is getting out of the base and T1 is already at Nashor. This is such a massive discrepancy in tempo, so that's really interesting. We should move back a bit to see that T1 actually thought about this really early, and we can see that here, let's say around here, and we can see already Carrier is warding here, the Wukong has like the team in general had some wards here. So they already gain control over this whole area while KT is just focusing on the bottom side. So they already think about, okay, how can we counter this play that KT is trying to do? Because if you are T1 and you want to try and contest the third dragon, it will be so hard. Because if you look here, warded, everything is really under control. And it's so hard to approach, like you can't really approach from the river, you can't really do that from the bot side. It's really difficult, because you will just get poked out by the Jace, by the Varus, and you will be at like 50% HP before the fight even starts. So they don't play towards that at all and already try to get KT into a really difficult position. And yeah, it helps that KT is using so much time to not recoil. So as a result, we can go forward a bit again. We can see T1 is doing the Nashor. It's not the quickest Nashor, but it's still fine. Yeah, and KT is now really feeling the pressure. They are thinking like, oh shit, we are really late to display. We can't really see that much at all. It's really not what we wanted to do at all. So it's not the best situation. So now Cass is engaging, and this is like exactly the way KT don't want to fight. Everybody on T1 full HP, then we have Faker who is getting kind of a flank from down here. It's exactly what we try to avoid usually. But I think KT may be feeling the pressure a bit. Nasher at 4k, I think it's still quite healthy. They didn't have to rush in that quickly. But yeah, really under pressure and like think they have to do a quick decision, so Cass engages. And yeah, the engage, I think it's not even a total disaster because they are quite far ahead. But then, actually, let's go back a little bit again. Yeah, around here, like I think BDD's wall not completely optimal, and he should probably not go into the Nasher pit, so that's not good. And then, of course, Faker finds a beautiful flank. And so, in the result, this teamfight was like the worst possible scenario that KT could go into. But of course, really well done by T1. They knew exactly how KT wants to play and found a good counterplay. Now moving forward a bit, we can see ourselves again in the Nasher River area. This time KT don't want to get into the same kind of situation. So this time they approach this area again and try to get control. But I think we will see really shortly their approach is completely wrong. But let's see it first play out. Really strong fighting by T1, but still, yeah, KT's approach, let's go back a little bit, completely wrong in my mind. I think this kind of way you don't want to engage onto T1. They just straight walk into it, they have zero vision, zero information on where is anybody on T1. They don't know anything, so Faker can again find a really strong fight to himself. Then we have like options for carrier going over here, maybe they could even do something like that. It's really awkward position for KT to walk into. So the way they should play, they should try to play, I think, on 2 lanes. They should have like maybe the Jace on the top side and then S4 in mid lane, and like try to push the waves in a little bit, and put the pressure on T1 to defend, and then they can move back into this area and clear the wards and clear the vision and set up vision themselves, and then they could threaten the Nasher a lot. So this is a bit, I think, would be a bit better on how to play, instead of just walking straight into it. Because like that you again find yourself in a really difficult fight. I think, of course, KT, the players could always play a little bit better, like Keen right here. He could maybe try to pull backwards a bit more instead of going even more in, or maybe even go on to... I think that's not a possibility actually, but I probably like try to gain some order again. But I think already it's really difficult. And just this is really not the kind of situation you want to find yourself in. Yeah, so KT didn't really set up their fights correctly at all. 2 times in a row, absolute disaster fights. And it will result in T1 getting the Nasher and really getting back into the game fully at this point. Okay, so let's see how Genji does it. And this game not too long ago, I think, and kind of a similar comp. We also have the Jace with a lot of poke, and the Ziggs who can be some additional poke. Somewhat the Maokai with his sublinks, not that much anymore compared to previous patches. And then we have the Yone. Yone is kind of pseudo poke, I would even say, because like he can E into the enemy, then do a lot of damage, and then E backwards, and then just heal up again with like all of his lifesteal. So he's kind of pseudo poke, I would say. So this kind of comp, kind of similar to the last one. Also have like an engage support as an option. So let's see how they do it. They are kind of in a, I would say, even harder position, because Damwon has all of their flashes up, so they can find a lot of angles and a lot of good fights for them. They have both TPs up as well. And also it's already soul, so it's like clutch point. If they don't get it, it's probably over. So let's see how they do it. Right now we could see that Damwon was last seen in this area, so as Genji we can kind of assume that there will probably be some amount of wards here. And they're going to recall now. So what we see now is that Peanut is already trying to clear all of the walls that might be left there from the last push from Damwon, which is really important because if he doesn't, then Cannon can find like a fight or a flank there with his TP or even LeBlanc, and then it can get like into a similar situation we just saw where they get flanked from every side and then they will just lose. So that's really important. So we are kind of first right now. We got mid lane pushed in and we can like get some amount of control at least. Not too much, but because we have to be aware of like LeBlanc engages or even the arrow when it's up again. And what we can see right now is that Genji is trying to find a good angle. So instead of what KT maybe would have done, which is like just go straight in here and not be aware of any kind of danger that Damwon can possess, they try to find a bit of a way around and a better approach to the dragon, which is around the bot side, which I feel like sometimes teams forget, especially on blue side. It's really good to sometimes just push in a bot lane or just go through this bot side and then approach the dragon like this. This can really work compared to just going here or here, which is a bit harder, I would say, because of the brushes as well. So they do that, they approach through this area, and also they have a bit of a chance for a pick if the cannon just goes straight in there instead of like this. So really good and really cohesive by Genji so far. And we can see they can actually manage to get a pick onto the cannon, which is really good. Really good for them. So they abused their positional advantage there for sure, while Sylvia was still pushing mid and like Damwon was really split up. And right now I think more of an individual mistake maybe by Canyon, where we can see a dragon not even spawned at all at this point, so Canyon doesn't really have to be there already. They can just try and like they have a couple of options. They could go in mid lane with the Sylvia and like try to get something else and like sacrifice the dragon, or they could try to really stall it out because Peanut is kind of low and then wait for the cannon TP. So these are some options they maybe have, but Canyon not that patient here, so he gets engaged on by the Leona and gets picked as well. So we can see a really cohesive approach by Genji, not going blindly into areas where they don't know anything, and manage to actually get 2 picks and crawl their way back into the game a bit. So now we are going to skip forward a bit and we come to the Elder Dragon, and already we can see it's a good situation for Genji. They have control, they were first on the objective so far, it's spawning in 4 seconds, and they can push in the mid lane wave and then really like solidify their position here. So we'll see how they do it. So far they are kind of winning the poke battle a little bit, I would say. The Canyon really low already. Jovi can just heal up, so that's not that big of a problem. So they are first now, and we can see they have everything covered. They have wards here, here, everything is covered, even here. And there's nothing to approach from bot side is really difficult for Damwon. So they can be quite happy so far. So Damwon slowly trying to make their way, while still continuing to get poked out. And Genji can really cover, or not cover, but tank this dragon quite a long time because Shobi just heals up, so they can just keep poking and they can kind of be happy with their position. And at this point it's quite difficult for Damwon to really find an angle. So we can see the most squishy members from Genji position towards the top side, which are the Ziggs and the Jays. So when Showmaker tries to come from here, he can't really get onto them. So that's really difficult. Also they see him of course all the time. And then for Cannon, maybe if he tries like this kind of angle, he is also on the ward, so this is also really good, well spotted. So they have complete information on all of the positions and can really play around it really well. So this is something we couldn't see at all from KT in the two examples we just saw. So we can see really they struggle so much to approach, like Showmaker comes forward, like who is he going to attack? They just drag it out even more. And then also, as I said, they are positioned kind of on the top side. So really maybe the only angle for Damwon is for Cannon to find something, but there's no ward to TP because everything was cleared. And yeah, he also doesn't have flash, so he doesn't have the most reach he could maybe have. So yeah, really difficult for Damwon to approach. So they just continuously kind of get poked a bit, and now we can see at this point for Damwon it's a bit like they are forced, maybe we have to take a bad engage or we are just losing Dragon. So they kind of line up into not the best position for them. And really good play by Chovy, to be honest. They get punished in the split second they kind of do that. So they are all lined up like this. And Cannon is still trying to kind of find an angle, is struggling to do that. And really great ult, of course, from Chovy. And Cannon like just half, like just not a strong engage. So in the end they win the fight and Damwon and they win the game. And Damwon really never could approach this fight in a strong way, I would say. So this really showed it's so important to find good approaches to team fights and how you really want to control the setting, especially with this kind of team comp where you are reliant on poke and on picks. And we could not see that at all by KT. And this is something that happens quite a bit when teams are a lot, or not a lot, they are quite far ahead, like let's say 5k, 6k, 7k, depending on the game, it can be really a strong lead. But then they get a bit careless and they try to, they just force things and want to end the game and finish the game and snowball the game, but kind of forgetting how they should play with the champs they have. So they give the other team a higher chance to make a comeback. But Genji never really did that, they always played towards the way their comp wants to play and didn't get led into some disadvantageous fight, and in the end managed to make a nice comeback. If you like this video, feel free, if you want, subscribe, leave a comment, leave a like, whatever you feel like, and I hope I see you in the next one.